9 o'clock, and there we are, live on Facebook. So, hello, this is Kavita Kapoor Khalsa, and I'm here with an amazing guest. And before as in logged in, and she said last we spoke was in 2018 when we were in Langkawi, and this is Prerna Wadhwa. But whatever we spoke, and we were in the pool. She was teaching me how to swim. I still don't know how to swim. But yeah, I learned floating. Thank you, Prerna, for that. But that's not the introduction, by the way. It is Prerna Wadhwa. She's a restaurateur. I know it's a French word, so restaurateur. Okay, pardon me if I'm incorrect in my pronunciation. A tarot reader and a teacher, interior architect, and an access consciousness certified facilitator, and a talk to the entities facilitator too. That's amazing. Okay, and she's coached globally clients, including the Indian Army and the underprivileged children. That's beautiful. And her agenda in life is very simple. Okay, empower people to know that they can go beyond their mishaps. Okay, because and create an abundance in their life, which is true. And life can be awesome. And here she is. We're going to be talking about the topic of big fat wedding falling apart. And not just that, and my little brief intro about her is she's glamorous and she's super stylish and she knows how to carry herself with an attitude I haven't seen so far. Thank you for coming on my show, Prerna.
Thank you for the brilliant introduction, Kavita.
Yes, no, there's an attitude that I want to learn from you because you're amazing at that. And with attitude, what I meant is carrying yourself with so much of that what we talk in access arrogance, that you like the peacock and you just know, you walk in knowing you own the world. That is you.
That's one way of looking at it, but thank you.
Whether you know it or not, that's what a projection of you is, and I like that about you. So here we're talking about a topic which is handpicked, and I just thought that you could throw more light on that. Would you want to talk about something on the pressure that this self-financed thing and getting married, like a big fat, it's a fantasy wedding that we end up doing, and it's more like a business deal. It looks like sometimes that, okay, how much are you going to spend, how much am I going to spend, and all. So could you throw some light on that?
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a handpicked topic. I remember Kavita calling me after 3 years and she's like, would you like to talk about your big fat wedding falling apart? I was like, okay, let's go there.
And big fat wedding falling apart. It's not that people's weddings haven't fallen apart, but it's like the big fat wedding, what goes behind that?
Uh, so yeah, big fat Indian weddings. I think specifically with Indian markets, when
Yes.
weddings are like blown out of proportion, and the flashier the wedding, the flashier the money that goes into it, and the greater the pressure, to like make it substantial enough to last a lifetime, because you are putting lifetime worth of investment in it, like, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a return on that investment. You're putting, like, shitloads of money making. I mean, and I had a destination wedding. I had a grand reception in Mumbai. I'm from Mumbai, and there was no, being the daughter of the only daughter. They also have a son. My parents also have a son, but also being the only daughter, like they wanted to do a grand wedding, and of
Yeah.
course there was nothing we held back in terms of spending on the wedding, and it's did I want a big fat Indian wedding? Sure. I mean, like, who doesn't, right? Like, there are very few people that would
Yeah.
be like, oh,
Who doesn't know? But then how would you? It's like self-finance versus being financed.
yeah.
Like.
I mean, when you're self-financing, you're a little more selective with where you spend and who you invite for your wedding and all of that. Also, I feel like you can handpick the guests that come at your wedding, and you can
Yeah.
keep it very intimate. You can keep it very. Me, on the other hand, I was financed by my parents. I was like, of
Big.
course, like, the world gets invited, and I remember standing on the stage at my reception, and I may have known 10 people out of the 1,000 that showed up.
Oh, so is that like a pressure thing? Like, you gotta be in a certain way, you have to carry yourself in a certain way. How does that go about? that you have to look perfect. Your every move has to be perfect, and you're kind of mastering that thing that okay, mummy ji, and like I mean, because you're going into their thing that what would they like, and then doing it that way. Is that too much of a thing that comes up?
Which I mean, like, to answer that, I would go back to your introduction where you said I actually walk into rooms not giving a fuck what people think about me. And that is something that I have, like, what I also aced at as a bride when I did get married was that I would walk into a room and I would be like, this is who I am at my best, at my worst. You can take me as I am, but this is all me, and the rest of it, I didn't really care about what jewelry I was wearing, what clothes I was wearing. I was like, I would even show up in like a very simple thing. I think it's like the society wants you to look a certain way. Society wants you to wear
Yeah,
expensive jewelry. They are
yeah,
waiting to see, oh, what jewelry are you wearing? What brand of clothes are you wearing? Me, on
yeah.
the other hand, I was like, I don't care. I mean, like, I didn't care about jewelry. I didn't care about branded clothes. I was like, I don't know. I was just so happy I was getting married. I had this very romantic notion of marriages before I got married. Then I got married. I was
Yeah,
like, my happily ever after, the love of my life, and we're going to live 7 lives together, and like Saath Fere and
yeah.
Janmo Ka Saath, and like for me, that was more the element of getting married.
Ideal, the utopian ideal kind of a thing that this is what marriage looks like and should be and must be, and then I have to adhere to that. But was it taken as a way of feeling people feeling offended that when you would walk in that this is me? How many people are able to take that?
I think there are two ways to live life. Either you live your life making sure you offend no one and kill yourself in the bargain, or you keep yourself as you are, keep yourself happy, keep yourself empowered, and offend as many people as you want and not give a fuck. I mean, there are only two choices in life, and there are contrary to popular belief, most of my life I spent my life killing myself so that I would be accepted, by society. I know
Wow.
how it looks like, it looks like, oh my God, look at Prerna, she doesn't give a fuck. But it didn't start off as that. It started off of me as being very shy, sitting in one corner of the room. I was like, no one, please don't look at me. I want to like disappear in front of plain
People.
eyes of people. But it took a lot. It took like falling down. It took my marriage falling apart. It took my confidence being crushed, the little bit that I had, like, and like putting all the pieces of myself back together. And now I've reached a point, I'm 32 years old, and I'm like, now I don't care, like, be offended, please be offended, but I don't want to kill myself anymore
Yeah.
just to impress you.
So
So
no, so when you got married and your marriage was not really working or going in the direction that you wanted it to, so was it easy or difficult for you? Because see, whatever said and done, there's a huge investment that goes into a big fat wedding. So was it kind of easy to walk out or come to that decision of choosing to walk out? Like, how was it?
it was the most difficult thing I've gone through in my life. I stayed longer in my wedding just because of log kya kahenge,
And we hope that it'll get better. Were you there because you thought that it ठीक हो सकता है or maybe give it another chance?
all hopes and dreams, all quiet, or like, we will work it out, because when I got married with happily ever after. I was
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter if there's happily involved, but ever after has to be there. Like, even if you're miserable, like my ex-husband, I was like, no matter how miserable you are, no matter how miserable I am, we are not getting separated. It
Yeah.
ain't happening, you know. And I stayed in it because what would people say? You're so and so's daughter, and oh my God, look at you having a fancy wedding. Look at how much money you spend, and here you are asking for a divorce. It wasn't an easy decision at all. I held on to the marriage for as long as I could with everything that I had.
All your
Uh,
might and all your strength that you could bring in.
yeah, with everything that I had, with every cell of my body, I was like, I'm not giving up on this. Uh, but then there's only so much. I mean, with any marriage, with any relationship, there are two people involved. And
Yeah.
in weddings, I would say there are families involved.
So no,
So
so was it, would you like often, in middle class families and the lower somewhere, the families come together and they talk it out and they try to make it work. Okay, it's like a lot of discussion of late that I've come across a lot of people. They're like families getting in between. Did you face that as well?
so when I had issues, I would not discuss it with my friends.
Mhm.
My go-to person to discuss was my mother. And when things could not be handled, then that's when I started reaching out to my father. Now I come from a really conservative family, and I've never shared a relationship of ease where jo karna hai kar lo, it's okay. Like, it's a very conservative family. We have very conservative values and moral values, and how to
Punjabis, so yeah.
proper Punjabis, like. And I was petrified of my father, right? I was like, more than anything, if I go and tell my father this is not working out, like, all shit is gonna blow apart, like, all shit is gonna hit the fan, and, like, it'll be the end of my life. But one of the things, thanks to, I mean, I got into access consciousness after I got married, you know.
Okay.
The biggest blessing
What
of my
got
life.
you into Access? Because you were going through a tough time. Did you get into Access? Was it like kind of uh, attracted you or appealed you, and you got into it?
I have I it's not that I got into access because I was having a difficult time. Like we say, we're always seekers, right? We're always seeking better things and greater things, and we're always seeking. So for me, I was always seeking. I was actually learning numerology from someone, and
Okay.
she was a certified facilitator. So she's like, "Why don't you try access bars?" So that's what I did, and then after 6 months, I did foundations. When I did foundation,
So what took you? Okay, I know I'm digressing, but what took you 6 months to come to a foundation class
in all honesty, I thought it was a waste of my time and energy to do an
and
access.
money? No, money was probably not the concern in this.
Money has not been a concern, but I thought it was a waste of my time and energy. I thought there was no, like, what the fuck, like, sit like with your head and 32 points and like one full day of learning. Ye finger kahan jata hai, wo finger kahan. I was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? I had no idea. I never practiced access bars. I was like, this is a fucking waste of money and time and energy, and this is bullshit. And I'm just getting spammed, and this is all. And I'm saying this now as a certified facilitator. Okay, so for whatever this is bringing up for whoever's listening to
Which
this.
is okay. I just want you to be you, and that's so yummy to kind of hear this because I think when I practiced Access bars, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like yeah. So I can relate to it, certain parts of it, but yeah, something just shifted in a month. I think it took a month for me to kind of know, and then I was pissed that it was like, oh, I have to do another class to understand what this shit is. Yeah,
Yeah.
but then it turned
So,
out glorious.
yeah. So the funny thing with me was I did one access bars class, which I thought I was spammed into.
Yeah.
My interesting point of view, I thought I was spammed into it. She somehow still managed to convince me to do a foundation, and hats off to her. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
the amount of gratitude I have for the woman to convince me that, there is more to this. You've got to do a foundation to really understand what bars is about. I was like, fuck it. You know what? It's 60,000. I think it was 60,000 bucks. At that point, I was like, fuck it, 60,000. Take my money. You're going to tell me my life is going to change after this. Let's fucking do this. I did a foundation, and there was no looking back from the foundation. Immediately, I went to COP, I went to ESP,
And I've seen you everywhere. Yeah.
tuck, 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 tuck. Like, there was no stopping me whatsoever. And I've only done one access bars class in my life. And the second one that I did, I kind of forced my ex-husband to go learn it because I thought that would improve my marriage. It's like,
Yeah.
come, let's go learn access bars. That was my second class. I have never facilitated an access bars class. I have never attended an access bars class again. However, I love getting my bars run. I do have a whole different outlook on bars now after doing all of these advanced classes. Now bars make sense.
Now
Now if
we
I don't get my bars run, I'm like going crazy. I'm like, someone please run my bars, like. But it took me doing the advanced classes to understand, to come back to bars and to be grateful for bars. Like, it took me like going leaping bounds ahead to come back to bars.
Access talks about allowance. Did that allowance not come for working out the marriage? Or I mean, like would you use the access tools to make your marriage work? Or no, it was still beyond repair.
So had I not had access consciousness, there was no way under the sun I would have gotten divorced. Like, I
Okay.
would have had no problem. Like, I had such low self-esteem that I would have stayed in that house. That guy was ready to kick me out. Not that he did, I'm just saying, like, myself, I have made self-esteem issues, confidence issues, all of that.
And
Access
just to
consciousness.
correct people, that access does not mean that you get divorced. So it's not that. What she's saying is that her self-esteem was so down that she would have stayed on in the marriage, but because access kind of gave her confidence and gave her, the strength back, that she could choose something different, right? That's what you say.
There's no way access consciousness, like, no, I mean, marriages are bad or divorce is the way to go. Not at all. Like, that's what I'm saying. Had I not had access, I would have probably stayed in my marriage. I would have been miserable. I would have spent the rest of my life having kids, bringing up kids, which I still would love to have kids. I mean, no problem with having kids, but that was my agenda. I had a very, like, I had my focus, get married, have two kids, but if the person you're with does not want to be with you, I mean, how?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
There's no, you can't push it. Like, you can't be the only person in the relationship committed to the relationship. So
True, true.
um I hit my lowest point after divorce. I went into depression. I went into, like, but I also, one of the things I want to say, that had I not had access, I would have never had the
Courage.
courage to go and tell my parents this is not working out.
Wow. And the courage to come out of that depression.
Courage to come out, and the strength that my family was for me, which was something completely unexpected. My relationship with my father changed completely, all thanks to access consciousness. From being petrified of him to, becoming best friends with him, and through a process like divorce, like Indian families, Punjabi families.
I know. Yeah, what you're saying. Falling apart is actually going to get you closer to somebody who's been always there.
Yeah, and it just, there was like this dynamic change in the attitude of my family. There was so much allowance that my family had for me suddenly. They've been my backbone, they've been my strength. Also, I do want to say that access consciousness gives you the empowerment to choose. So when you're choosing something different,
Yeah.
even if the difference shows up as a divorce, or maybe that difference shows up as a marriage, right? It could be anything.
It could
Like,
be
for
anything.
someone who's single, I don't want to get married, I don't want to get married, I don't want to get married. But if you do choose to go that route, you will see that your choice will work in such a way that everyone around you changes because you're choosing something different. So
Yeah. So, I mean, so basically coming to the point that money at that time obviously would not have mattered when, or did not create the pressure to move out, that, इतना किया है तो इसलिए बाहर कैसे निकले, नहीं निकलना चाहिए, and all that was never the criteria, right?
oh, it was for me. It was for a long time. I remember, I remember thinking, when the wedding cards had been printed, and I had a very uncomfortable conversation with my ex-husband, and I knew that I don't want to get married to him, and I didn't make that choice because the wedding cards were printed. And that's like, that's the element of, how.
Pull out either, because when the cards were printed, I was like, okay, now, जग हसाई हो गई कि cards बढ़ गए and you're pulling out. So you just
Exactly.
go ahead because खर्चा हो गया. And that was it. That was little, and then it's more. Yeah.
I mean, is money relevant as, I mean, what is money? I mean, what is the relevance of money to your happiness? Would you be miserable in your life just because you have invested X amount of money? Or would you be happy and then recreate that amount of money through other mediums? Like,
Absolutely.
uh,
If you're happy, you will create money. That's the whole thing. So, though after all of this, do you still believe that marriages are possible, and like, would you like to, or is that no, it's the worst thing, or you took what, any kind of judgment that came up for you?
I have a very different outlook on marriage. I had a very utopian ideal before. Like, everything's going to work apart. I'm going to live with his family, and, it's going to be Hum Saath Saath Hai was my ultimate dream movie. You
Yeah.
know, we'll sit in a bus and the whole joint family will go for road trips and, stuff like that. Now I have a more pragmatic approach to marriage. Like, it takes two people creating greater together. And if you don't have that, then you probably don't want to be with the person, on a longer period of time. It takes, and like Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness, often says that relationships are a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So if you're in a relationship or if you're in a marriage, make sure that you are creating greater by being in it. And that's
Yeah.
the only reason I mean, you want to be with someone because you're creating 200 times more with them than you're creating on your own.
On your own. Yeah.
So till that doesn't happen in my life, till someone doesn't walk in and helps me exponentialize what I'm already creating on my own, I don't want to go there. I mean, what are you adding to my life that I mean, I was, like when I remember when I would go to meet guys before when I had an arranged marriage. I would sit across from guys' families and be like, please like me, please like me, please like me. That was my go-to. That's every girl's thing, like I hope the guy likes me, I hope the guy's family likes me. Now,
Yeah.
on the other hand, after going through whatever I went through, I sit across from a guy on the table and be like, do I want to be impressed by you? Am I getting impressed by you? Do I like you? That changed my focus. It's no more about,
60 turnaround. I mean, that's amazing. So
yeah,
after this, no, I mean, it's I think a little legal thing. Do you think prenuptial agreement should happen before marriage? Like, okay, we walk out without any kind of too much distress. If it works out, great. No, thank you so much, and let's end it.
hmm,
Do you think that
how,
works?
how much do you have to lose? If it's a lot, you want to get a
Yeah.
prenup. If you got nothing on your name,
And how does it matter? Go
if,
ahead, go experience, and then
I
change.
feel if you've got a lot to lose, you better get a prenuptial agreement in place, and why would you take the abuse of a person? Why
Yeah.
would you take the abuse of a marriage not working out and also lose your money in it?
True. And so no, so point is not walking out of a marriage and staying had it create, I mean, would that have created more abuse for you?
In my case, it would have.
It would
Then
have.
I think it depends on who's going through it and what's their experience. Yeah.
That was actually that was beautiful to have your vulnerability out. I want you to say what you would like to, like few words to end it with. What would you wrap up this whole thing with?
My only and this is what I would tell people that are young girls who are looking to get married, or people that are looking to get married again, is do not be with anyone that does not value you, who does not see the value of you. First, see the value of yourself.
Yes.
Identify how fucking valuable you are. Just because you're existing, just because you're alive, just because you're on the fucking earth, you're fucking valuable. You're a gift. If you don't see that for yourself, no one will ever validate that for you.
I
First,
totally.
see the value of you, and second, don't ever settle for anyone who does not see the value of you. If they don't see you as a gift, if they don't see the value of you, don't go there.
And no matter how many years you've been in the marriage, they wouldn't get to see it. Just walk out anyway. Don't stay in it just because you have children. Don't stay in it just because your parents would not like it. Don't stay in it because of any justification or reason. If they can't value you, thank you very much.
I mean, it's a choice. I mean, would you? I mean, it's there's no right choice and wrong choice here. If it creates I mean, some people like being abused, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Do you think the Indian Asian thing is more like, okay, they don't even realize that it is an abuse? I mean, they're being abused because it's so. एक थप्पड़ ही तो मारा, क्या फर्क पड़ता? Like I saw a movie and it just said that in the first go, even I felt, हाँ एक थप्पड़ से divorce ले लिया उसने, and then I was like, oh, there were many other ways that energetic slaps were there, and then we don't realize that, do we?
This is where I mean, this is where you set the standards for yourself, which is where where the conversation of value comes in.
Yeah,
No, a person who sees your value will not abuse you.
absolutely.
If you see your value, you will
You
not let
will
yourself
not.
be abused.
You
If
won't let yourself to be abused.
you're a shining solitaire, you will not just go and like drop it on the ground like it's shit. You will be treasured, you will be valued, you will be honored, you will be respected. The five elements of intimacy that we talk about. To be dishonored is a form of abuse.
It
It
is.
doesn't even have to be a slap on the face. If
No,
someone is dishonoring you in as simple as a conversation, what kind of a relationship is that? If you're dishonoring me in a conversation, where are we going? What are we doing? What are we creating? So it's your choice. I mean, there's no right choice, there's no wrong choice. It's only about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. What works for me is I want to be honored. I want to be respected. I want simply what I give to people to be received. Like if I'm gifting you, honoring, please receive it and also gift it back to me. Don't dishonor me, don't disvalue me, because I'm not going to stand for it. So
that's so wonderful. That's brilliant. In fact, and whatever you said, actually, some of it gave me goosebumps. And your vulnerability is your strength. The way you kind of brought it out, amazing. I'm so glad I had you on this show. So thank you for this. And people, if you would like to choose classes, she doesn't do bars classes, but there are other classes she could really contribute and change your life, because she's changed her life 360 degrees, as you heard. Go and connect with her. She's in Mumbai and available anywhere. So just connect with her and choose more for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavita. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.